there's history, you know?
Yeah, that's cool. But Bryce, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It's cool getting you on with the circumstances of how we kind of met, and we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that in a wee bit. But what I like to do with all my guests is I go back to the very beginning for them. So where originally are you from?
I'm from Minnesota, from outside of the suburbs, the middle of nowhere in the southern suburbs of the Twin Cities.
Yeah.
And yeah, born and grew up there. We moved around quite a bit. We ended up in Colorado for a while, and then we landed back in the suburbs of the Twin Cities. Now I'm in Minneapolis, and so Minnesota's kind of home, but also home is kind of wherever I am. You know, because of all the moving, I'm kind of if there's a bed there and my heart is there, that's my house.
And obviously, we're going to be talking a lot about music. So for yourself, were you exposed to music from a very young age?
Sort of yes, sort of no. I think my family is very not artistic. I grew up in a very large Catholic family. A lot of people, and they're all blue collar workers, and nothing wrong with that. But any sort of time spent in the art was kind of a waste of time. So music was on in the background. Yeah. And I know I had a little guitar to play with when I was a kid, but I wasn't like actively taking lessons or learning. But I was always really called to it. Every time there was a music class at school, I was like, oh, this is really nice. And I really fell in love with certain artists, as I was growing up, and I bounced between genres. There was a lot of country music when I was little, and then there was pop music when I was in my middle school years, and I got really into pop punk and metal in high school, and started teaching myself how to play guitar probably around the age of 14-ish. So guitar and drums were pretty close.
Well, I was going to ask, because I know you play the guitar, but is it drums as well?
Drums, I would say, was probably, I think that's at the core, I'm a drummer. I think I would call myself, I think most people would call me a guitarist first, but I would call myself a drummer, and that's kind of weird.
And that's maybe from watching your YouTube videos, that's maybe where your obsession with timing.
Yeah, it really is. I love the drums. There's just something about like feeling the groove, and like, I said I picked it up in middle school. I found, I took band class, and I played French horn in band. That's the instrument I chose. But my band teacher was really kind. I stayed after school a lot and just hung out in the band room. Yep. And there was one day where I found a piece of sheet music for We Will Rock You, because the band was playing We Will Rock You. Okay. And I found the sheet music for the drum parts, and I asked him if I could play the drum kit, and he always let me kind of goof around. He trusted me with it. He knew I wasn't going to break it. And so I set it down, and I'm like, okay, well, this might be the kick drum, and this might be the snare drum, and this might be the hi-hat. And I just taught myself how to play that simple beat. I mean, everybody already knows the stomp clap part. Yeah. So
I always get jealous of American schools, because things like music, for example, it's, the teachers take an interest in it. I mean, it's one of those things that's it's encouraged, especially if a student shows signs of, it's something they're interested in, it's something they might be good at. I don't know if it was just the schools that I went to, or if it was maybe the time that I went to school. I'm in my 40s now. Okay. So it's been a long time since I was at school, but back when I was at school, it really, you had music class, but there was no such thing as a school band. I don't even know if that even exists. Oh. It's just not a thing that happened here. And it definitely was. There was a few teachers in high school that took an interest in what I enjoyed, but for the most part, it was almost like they were like, this is what you've got to learn. This is what we've been told to teach you. Don't ask me anything else because I'm not interested.
Really?
And it's sad when you kind of think like that, because that's not the way a teacher should be, but it's maybe different nowadays.
Maybe. Yeah, who's to say? I didn't go to school when I was in Scotland, so I can't tell you.
Yeah, but so you kind of you did say obviously you picked the guitar up and the drums sort of early teens. Would I be right in saying then about was that the sort of age that you discovered your own musical taste as well? And who were some of the bands that you initially started discovering for yourself?
It's funny. Yeah, I guess when I started playing drums and guitar, again, it was a couple months apart, but my friends were just obsessed with Blink 182 at the time.
Right. Okay.
And so, I mean, they were hot, they were fortunately easy to play.
Yeah.
You can learn power chords really simply, really quickly. So when you're just starting out, a simple beat and a simple guitar part is a great band to be in love with. I feel bad for anybody whose first band is like Dream Theater or something like that. Like, oh no, I'll never be able to play. But I got fortunate that we were really into Blink and Green Day, and we started finding Sum 41. It's really pop punk. But right before that time period, right before that, I had just moved back from Colorado. I was coming fresh off of the boy band craze, right? I was in love with Backstreet Boys and NSYNC and 98 Degrees. I knew every harmony. I could tell each member's voices apart. Like, I was really into it.
Yeah.
And as a young boy in America, it was very like, oh, that's girl music, right? And it was very like, if you had to like secretly like them, or
Yeah.
else
Yeah.
you were like made fun of, right? But I like unashamedly really liked those bands. And so coming into Blink and Green Day and starting to get into that stuff, my pop influences were still influencing me, right? And I had, I liked Matchbox 20. I liked video game music. I had interests all over, but my obsession band was Blink, and then it went towards the Sum 41, and then it went to Metallica. And I think,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's funny when you say that though, because especially if you're coming from a rock background, it's almost like it's embarrassing to even consider liking a pop band. But if you actually think about just pop music,
yeah,
it's extremely successful, and the reason it's extremely successful is it's simple, catchy tunes,
yeah. And
right?
I've been saying for as long as I can remember, in defense of pop music, and not to say that I'm still super into it or whatever, but like the thing is pop music isn't a genre. You can't define pop. Pop is short for popular, and there have been popular acts who are rock, and there have been popular acts who are techno. Like there isn't really a genre, and if you really think about it, like there's Spice Girls songs that could be right next to AC/DC. You know what I mean? Like you take their hit "Wannabe," and it's just an AC/DC riff. Bump, burn up, burn up, burn up, burn up. It's just AC/DC.
It's funny that you say that because there is times when I think to myself, I'm going to pick my secretly favourite 10 pop songs and use those songs as a structure and copy it, but into a rock format and see
Right.
how it comes out. Because at the end of the day, it's just a catchy tune. It's
Yeah.
not my kind of music, but it all kind of is the same at the same
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. Well, and there's also, I mean, so my love for the sort of the mid '90s pop and my love for rock and roll came together, and I'd be like, okay, well, I have a guitar, I have a drum kit, I'm going to cover a pop song, right? Then you start learning the notes, and I actually fell more in love with them once I had to learn how to play them, because they're actually difficult. There's a lot of difficult songs. There are a lot of like tricky, weird harmonies and interesting, intricate background noises that you wouldn't have noticed on the first listen. And
Yep.
it gets better, And so I think anyone taking an aggressive stance against any genre is closing out any sort of like, there's a lot of opportunity to learn something new about your current genre, right? You don't have to be 100%. I only listen to metal. It's all chicks and beer and rock and roll. It's like, yeah, but there's like other stuff out there. I mean, if you think of someone like System of a Down as a metal band, but all of their music is inspired by Armenian culture, and they have very like interesting time signatures and different ways of like. Some of the songs might sound goofy to someone who isn't as familiar with different types of music.
I mean, you even look at the biggest rock band in the world, Metallica. There's certain songs they have done in their career. If I was to put that on, not telling someone who it was, they would be thinking it's a country band.
Right. Yes. Low Man's Lyric.
Yeah, and guess what? Sometimes I just think it's either a good song or it's a bad song. It's as simple as that, regardless of genre.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But obviously, give me a wee laugh. Do you remember what was the first professional concert that you ever attended?
Oh, let's see here. I think a friend of mine. There's in Minnesota. The Minnesota State Fair is kind of a big deal, and it's like one of the biggest like state fairs in the country. And there's bands come through every year and play. And my friend got tickets to see Three Doors Down at the Minnesota State Fair. So that would be probably the first one that was like middle schoolish. And the opening band was some unknown band, some rando group we've never heard of. They went up there. Singer might have used like 2 different microphones, and we're like, what is this? This weird, like, who is this band? A month later, all of a sudden, this song was on the radio every day, every hour. And we're like, isn't that band we just saw last month, that Forgettable Nobody band? Nickelback?
Yep. Right, okay.
So we just happened to see Nickelback like a month before they just hit. And I have no memories of how good they are. I just remember, like, I don't know who this is. I'm waiting for that Superman song or whatever, you know? And I wasn't even a really big fan of them, but it was like cool to see a concert for the first time. And then the first time I went into a stadium was for Blink-182 and Green Day.
Right. They played together.
They did. Yeah. It was like 2001, I think.
Right. Okay. So was that American Idiot?
Right before. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it was. I guess it was maybe a couple years before. They were still like they were pre-tie and eyeliner Green Day. And Blink-182 was, I think, touring on their "Take Off Your Pants and Jacket" album, and so it was before. Yeah, so it was, you know, and me and my friends were like obsessed with both bands, and so it was like a dream come true, like tears streaming, like, oh my God, they're here, kind of thing.
Funny, it's such a small world. I actually know someone who originally from Scotland that moved to San Diego when they were a teenager through their father's work, and they ended up in high school with 2 of the band members from Blink-182 were in their class.
Really?
Yeah, I think it was the singer and the bass. I think the drummer was maybe from elsewhere, but they did the gig circuit with. Who was the band that done the Michael Jackson cover?
Oh, Alien Ant Farm.
Yeah, them as well.
Wow. Oh.
So they were jamming out in San Diego, sort of mid '90s to late 2000s.
Nice.
And you think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is. It is cool. What a time! Yeah. What a time.
So you're learning drums, learning the guitar. Are you pretty much self-taught, other than getting shown a few bits and pieces at school?
Yeah, school was like 100% just French horn and like a little bit of music theory during band class, right? Because you have to read the notes and stuff. But when I came to Minnesota, I had already learned that We Will Rock You bit, but I didn't have a drum kit to practice on. And I started doing some work with my mom to earn money on the side. And I helped her at her job at a print shop, and I raised up, like, I think it was $190. I found a newspaper ad selling a drum kit for $190.
Yeah.
Just a dinky little son moved off to college, and I don't want this in my house anymore. So I bought this dinky little drum kit, and then a friend of mine showed me how to read tabs.
Right, okay.
And then and then I got my guitar for Christmas or that same year, which is actually this one right here, Tomato Soup. That was my first ever guitar, and I took a couple of lessons with a relative. And most of those lessons were, hey, I want to play this song. Will you show me how? And he would sit there and write out the tabs, and then I would go practice. So it's mostly self-taught. Yeah.
It's funny you say that, because I have spoke with a lot of people, and depending on what age you are, you have a very different approach to how you learn your instrument. Okay. Because obviously, I'm in my 40s, so there was no internet when I was younger. You couldn't go YouTube and have 1,000 people giving you a lesson on how to play your favourite song. You had to hunt down a music shop, and if you were very lucky, they would maybe have a music book section. And if you were very, very lucky, you had to hope there was tab in the book because you didn't read music.
Right.
It's not till later on that it always confused me when people would say you learn by ear. Yeah. Playing the guitar, because when you first pick it up, it's so new, you don't know what you're doing. But that's probably 90% of what I do now. I just learn it by ear. Back then, you needed a wee bit of help. I just think if you were younger now, if you were like 12 years old wanting to learn the guitar, how easy would it be to actually do it?
I mean, I have a little insider knowledge because my full-time job, I work in the Minneapolis Parks system, and we have a recording studio in the recreation center, and I get to teach teens how to make music, how to make videos, 3D printing, a whole bunch of technology and career skills. And one of those things is we have guitars and a drum kit and a bass in the basement. And so I'm actually working with 12-year-olds who are learning for the first time. And it's so easy. Well, one, they have me and I already know the instrument, so I can just show them. But I guess it's kind of a mixed bag, right? Because I wonder how much is attached to the way the music industry is in general, because with the internet and with streaming, there are so many artists. When I think back to, I'm in my late 30s, so I'm catching up. No, I'm in my, and I get to kind of grow up in the wild west of the internet, right? It was all fresh and new and exciting, and websites took forever to load, but we had websites, right? And we had tabs, but a lot of the tabs were user created, and they were really bad at writing tabs. You'd find out really quickly, hey, this doesn't sound like the right song, right? And if you God forbid, you buy the And Justice for All official tab book, which is notoriously off. But tabs were out there, but you also, there were only tabs for the most popular bands. Right. Yeah. And so if you liked some niche band that nobody's heard of, you're going to have to do it by ear. And I think similarly, even more so now, I had a student the other day came in, wanted to learn how to play guitar. And I'm like, well, what kind of artists do you like? And I can't even repeat what name she said for this artist. I have no idea. I've never heard of this thing before. And I'm like, okay, well, let's pull up the music. And I started playing it and I stopped it. And I'm like, have you ever heard of System of a Down? She goes, no. And I'm like, this sounds like System. And I played the System of a Down that it sounded like. And then we went back to finish listening to the song, and lo and behold, the second half of the song is almost exactly like Needles from System of a Down. But there's no tabs for that artist because not many people know that artist, and those that do know this artist aren't doing the work to upload or create the tabs. So there's still an element of learning, but now there's just more to learn, and whether or not other people have done the work is...
It's funny when you're talking about learning, because the internet can be a great thing, but the other thing I see which makes me laugh is you get all these adverts coming up saying learn the guitar in half the time. Just download it and you'll be able to do 10 years of learning in 3 years. And my daughter, she's older now, but when she was younger, she'd went through a wee phase of wanting to learn the guitar, and kind of sat her down, showed her some, the standard chords, C, G, E minor, things like that.
Yeah.
And because she's younger, the attention span is just not there. So, 15 minutes, she couldn't play what she was trying to play, and oh, this is impossible, wanting to put the guitar down. And I'm trying to explain to her, you need to...
You got to work.
You could play for 5 years just to learn the basics and maybe not even be very good at it. You could play for another 5 years. I mean, if you keep playing long enough, you should be doing something correct that you start to pick it up. But it takes a long, long time.
Yeah.
And you also want to have to do it. So it's not me sitting and saying to you, pick up that guitar and practice. You've got to want to come home from school and I've got to grab the guitar off you because you're just sitting constantly playing it. That's what you need to do. But I think I get the impression there's a lot of kids nowadays, their attention span is not there. But then at the same time, you get a kid that comes in that wants to learn to play it, will learn to play it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the desire to do it, right? If they've got the passion, if they've got the will, it's going to happen. Absolutely. I agree. Like there's been a lot of, I've been talking a lot to a lot of different people about attention spans lately. I don't know if the universe is trying to tell me something or what, but, but it's just, I feel like there is a lack of, I feel like our generation and maybe just a little bit slightly younger as well, the parents right now are, and the teachers and the adult role models are answering questions immediately and not offering time to troubleshoot. You know, we're not, there's not a lot of acceptance of failure. And I believe in failure as a process of learning. And I have, like I said, at the recreation center where I work, we actually have an air hockey table, and I'll be sitting upstairs and kids will come in and they'll go, how do I turn on the table? And I say, well, there's an on switch. And they go, well, where is it? And the problem is that if there's any other adult in the building, they'll just turn it on. And then the kid doesn't ever have to learn.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's like the process is like, I sit there and my process is going, there's an on switch. And they say, where is it? I say, I bet you can find it. And they look around and they go, I can't find it. And I'm like, have you tried looking in another place? And I try to push them towards like the troubleshooting skill of finding an on button, which is something we all need. Right. But if they're having troubles finding on buttons and wanting to give up and other adults are swooping in to just do it for them, what other things are being given to them without them having to try? And if you don't have to try to get anything, then why would you have an attention span at all?
Yeah. I mean, I remember when I was younger learning the guitar, and you would get to the solo section, and this is trying to learn it by ear. And you broke it down into sections.
Yeah,
you would learn the easy bits first. It would be that you can't play, and it might be that you can never. If it's Marty Friedman or something that you're listening to, maybe you'll never be able to play them. But you would break it down, and you would get the little melodic part. Okay, I've figured that part out. I don't know this bit. I know the next bit. The next 2 bits. Oh, I don't know this next bit. And it would be a long process, but it would be rewarding in the end when you find it. It might not be 100% perfect, but rewarding. You would feel good that you've sat and you've done that yourself. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, 100%.
So you're learning the drums, learning the guitar in your teens. Were you playing in bands?
I my first ever band we formed in 2002. We were called Silver Infection, which I still think is a great name.
Okay, and what style would you say it was? Like if you had to compare it to a couple of bands.
Oh, I can compare it. We were basically a Blink-182 cover band. Like we played Blink and Green Day songs over and over and over, and then we started getting into Metallica, so we started shifting a little bit heavier. And so we were mostly covers, but then we'd write a handful of originals, and it usually sounded like one of those bands. You know, it was very, very close to
See for yourself, the drums and the guitar, back then, it might still be the same today, but who were your influences for those instruments?
The same, just those bands, to be honest. Travis Barker was huge for the drums, right? Yep. And that was like my go-to guy. And I just only really knew those couple. I'm the kind of person that like I never really. This probably sounds bad, but I didn't really ever explore music or genres that far. I usually fell in love with one act, and I
And you're
took
like,
in everything that they did. Right, and
yeah,
like if they really connected with me, I just took in everything. So I knew everything about Backstreet Boys, and I knew everything about Metallica. Right, and it's like those two worlds are kind of they don't really match as well, but it. I knew like all of it, right? For every little note, every little mistake in the recording, like I knew the whole content. And so that was really kind of how I operated. So there's not a lot of like, oh, this is the guitar player or this is it was more of like, I feel the rhythm, and I
yeah.
like the rhythm.
Are you still playing in a band today?
Sort of, not really. It's kind of complicated. I have, I think I'm in a time in my life right now where I'm kind of struggling with rock and roll a little bit, because I love it so much, and that's what I write, and that's what I know how to write. But there's an energy. I don't drink. I've been a sober person my whole life, and rock and roll is usually paired up with like a real drunken crowd. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong if people want to do that, but it's like not really my scene. And so what ends up happening is the opportunities for me as a rock artist are to play some random bar with a bunch of people that I'm just not really interested in hanging out with. It's nothing personal. It's just not my scene.
Yeah.
And it's just like people aren't really showing up for rock and roll anymore either in the bars. Like they're either there to drink and there's a band that just happens to be there. They're not like showing up, for original bands. And it's been kind of hard to work with venues, to work with other artists. I had a band go. Midnight Notion is my band. It is a solo project. I have hired people to join me on stage before. But in 2022, I had to kind of take a break because I realized I played one of my most successful shows in terms of audience attendance for an original rock night.
Yeah.
And I lost money on it. And
Right.
that was the day where I was like, okay, we're paying for rehearsal space. We're driving to and from where it's gas, it's parking. It's like, then the venue takes their cut and then the other bands take their cut and then my band members take their cut. And at the end of the day, I also have to do marketing for the show and I have to pay for ads. And like, I was losing money and I wasn't getting return audience members.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I literally have made more on YouTube in my small little YouTube channel.
Yeah.
It's not even like, I'm not even putting out videos very often, but I just got my like third or fourth $100 check from Google. And like that, I never get $100 from a venue.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the moment I do it, like if you were to do like a specialty night, an album release or a cover song night or something like that, the people show up, right? It's only the events that bring people in. And I was having troubles finding the right events. And I'm like, I just need to spend some time maybe just doing YouTube. I have a full-time job. And I don't know. I think I needed to pull back from live. But I do have a project that is sort of starting to start. And speaking about cover bands, I have a friend that invited me to learn some Rush songs.
All right. Okay.
As the drummer.
Right. Okay.
So he's always loved Rush pretty much his whole life. That's how he learned how to play the bass guitar. And we were talking about it. I uploaded a crappy cover. I tried to hack my way through Tom Sawyer just for fun. Having never learned it and never like spending any time on it. And I uploaded that. We were talking about it. And he's like, would you ever be interested in jamming on some Rush? And I'm like, yeah, why not? How hard could it be? How hard could playing the best drummer of all time's drum parts, his weird time signatures?
You sound like you're in a little bit of a similar situation to myself. As when you're younger, you're spoiled for spare time.
Yes.
And as you get older, I still love I still love the idea of writing a song. Yeah. Whether it's good or bad, that's up to other people to decide.
Yeah.
I love the idea of recording. I love the idea of playing. I've not played with a band for probably over 10 years now because, I work, I've got life, I've got
Yeah.
family,
Yeah.
and, things get in the way. And then it's, as time goes on, if you're wanting to put time into a band, see trying to find 3 or 4 individuals that are almost the personality is more important than their ability.
Really,
See,
it is.
spend time with 3 or 4 people, and you don't want to be arguing and
Yeah.
all that sort of stuff. But I still love the idea of it. I play in the pubs a lot, but it's cover songs. But it's a little bit what you said is that people are there despite you being there. You're there,
Right.
and you're there in the background. They're not there to see you.
Right.
And don't get me wrong, it pays very well.
Yeah.
It's a good money earner, but it's a wee bit soul destroying playing someone else's songs as well.
It really is. It really is. I mean, like there's one side of it where it's like, play the songs that you like to play, right? And there is a fun of that, like, oh, I get to do my own little take on it or whatever. But when I was playing with Midnight Notion, like the thing about me is like I am a performer. I think before I would say I'm a drummer, I would say I'm a performer. I love being on stage. I do improv. I don't do as much theater as I'd like to, but I do commercial acting as well. I love being like putting on a face and commanding a crowd, right? And as far as influences, it's James Hetfield. Like I love being able to say yeah, and then they all go yeah. I don't do it as well as he does, but getting. Yeah, exactly. Being able to just say confidently, this is the part where you sing, and then knowing that they will if you've taught them well enough, right? And I was at a place where every show I played, I can get a room full of people who've never heard of me before to sing one of my originals, because literally all you have to do is say, these are the words, here you go. And, write it in a way that it's singable, of course, but it's simple enough. And I found those moments, and we were doing them every show, and that's really rewarding. And that moment where you pass the mic and they respond is like the best feeling in the world, because you feel like I made this thing and now people are carrying it, and it's like my baby, Yeah. And
what about so talking about songwriting then, what is your own personal process for songwriting? Do I know it can change each time, but in general, do you have a process for writing a song?
Not the initial idea, no. But I think later on, yes, if that makes sense. Like the idea, I could.
For example, will you come up with lyrics first? Will you come up with a melody and put the lyrics last? Like what's your sort of process for it?
Yeah, it's always different. Every single song, because I know each of the instruments and I have like all these different influences, something will come and I never know whether it's going to be, I mean, I've written a song from the drum part before. I've written a song from the guitar, from the bass, from the vocal line. I've actually written a song before based on the idea for the music video. Which is the weirdest, how does that happen? And then, of course, I never finished the song or the music video, but the idea inspired the song. And so it comes from literally anywhere. So the initial idea is all just creative spark, just like being aware of the world and watching where you are, and like a scenario happens and you go, ooh, that would, write it down, right? Yeah. And from there, I don't know, I guess there is sort of a comfort level with you kind of get used to, this feels like a verse, this feels like a chorus, this feels like maybe I'm very energy based as well. So I know that if I've been building a lot of energy, I want to drop it down or build it higher. And I do a lot of experimenting that way, but I feel like most of the time it's natural. It's like you feel like this is kind of a low, all right, the chorus is going to be big, or vice versa, right? And so the structure comes pretty quickly, the tempo, the time signature, all that falls into place pretty quickly. What I didn't spend enough time on in all of my career is lyrics. I always put them last. And I would have maybe a main hook or a chorus. I
Yeah,
do a lot of na 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 and da 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 and random words. You know, this is the rhythm of the melody,
yeah. So
but
you
not
have
the words.
an idea of how you want the words to fit. You just don't have the words yet.
Yes, yeah. And it wasn't till my last record, my in 2019, I put out Somewhere in Dream World, and I before recording it, I actually had a demo version of the whole thing that I sent out to a number of people, and I said, "Hey, I need some people to give me like really good, hard, honest feedback and
Yeah,
tell me what you think about the whole record." And I had some really great people give me like actual beyond, oh, it's pretty good advice. You know,
yeah.
like, because a lot of people just like to say, hey, good job, you know? Um,
Almost like what you did with myself.
yeah.
Yeah,
You said, you asked me to look over your music, and it was like, all right, yeah, let's do it. Let's go for it. If you want to hear it, let's go for it. Because I actually probably did that because of what they did for me, you know?
yeah. But I mean, but when I sent you, obviously I had been watching your videos on YouTube, which we'll speak about, but I wasn't looking for someone to blow smoke up my arse.
Right,
I'm wanting, this person is a fellow musician, so they know what they're talking about.
right.
But I want someone who, not a friend, not a family member, someone to sit and listen to this and say, what's good, what's bad, what is your opinion? If I didn't
Yeah,
want your opinion, I wouldn't have asked.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know, and what was actually good was I had in my head my own thoughts. Most of what you said actually mirrored what I already probably knew.
Nice.
And it was things like, for example, I recorded 8 songs. Now, at that moment in time, that's the best 8 songs that you can come up with.
Right.
But you know yourself, once you live with a song for a wee while, it might, that when you revisit it, you go, actually, it's probably only 6 songs there. 2 of them are probably I would have not bothered with. And it was funny because there was one of them that you'd said, oh, it sounds, it's like more of the same. But in my mind, it was the weakest one of that for the same kind of reason. Mixing wise, I'm a guitarist, probably a singer second. I can record, I am not a mixer. I'm terrible at mixing. And what I took from, you kind of already told me what I knew, which was the songs, most of the songs are not too bad. They need work, but sound wise, it's pretty terrible. What was interesting from that, though, is the next batch of songs that I wrote, for the first time in my life, I handed them off to someone. So I have a friend who has his own recording studio, does mixing and mastering, and I said, I paid him, can you mix this? I don't want any input from myself. I'm a guitarist, so guess what's the highest thing in the mix? It's the
Yeah,
guitar.
guitar. Yeah,
I'm not as confident in the vocals, so guess what? The vocals are buried in the mix and you can't
yeah,
hear it. I don't play bass, so the bass is just non-existent and blah blah
yeah.
blah. He came back with this mix, and it was weird to hear it because it was a good mix, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
But you
yeah.
hear everything correctly, but it's like a fresh pair of ears.
It really is.
And you've almost kind of got to be like, I'm going to trust this person that they know what they're doing
Right.
because what I'm doing is not working.
Yeah, yeah,
But it was cool, kind of like getting feedback. But it was really good though because, as you said, it wasn't just track 1, 2 is quite good, track 3 and 4 are
right.
not good. I mean, you actually listened to them and you gave us specific details. So it was always appreciated that you actually done that as well, and you done it free of charge as well. Because there's
Don't tell everybody.
some people would be like, "Give me $500 for that, please."
Oh
But
no, they're lining up. They all
yeah,
want me to do it.
you write songs. You
Yeah.
also perform. You had to pick one to do for the rest of your life. Which one would it be?
Oh man, uh, that's difficult. Like I said, I love performing. as long as there is an audience that wants to be there,
Yeah.
right? I get tired of performing when the audience isn't watching or doesn't care. And so if I could choose to tour the world, I mean, like, I'm less interested in the tour bus and the long days of just sitting in a car or a vehicle or whatever. But I do genuinely, if I could be a full-time performer, I would do
Yeah.
that. Yeah. I genuinely do. I like the idea of, going on talk shows and podcasts and stuff like that. I love this. I love talking to people. And I would do it all day, every day. And the only reason that I don't is because I have to make money to stay alive.
Yeah.
Right. And if we all had some sort of a universal basic income that could hold us up, I would absolutely be 100% creating the entire time.
It's funny you say that. Like, maybe, I don't know, 20 years ago, maybe the tour bus would have been quite cool for us. But now I'm just like, I look at bands like the big bands like Metallica and Iron Maiden, all these type of bands that have been going for 40 plus years.
Yeah.
And I think to myself, how great must it be? I mean, everything's great for them. They're not in a smelly tour bus or that. They've got the best. But how great must it be that you go to a hotel, a nice hotel, someone picks you up, they drive you to a venue, they hand you a newly restrung guitar.
Right.
All you have to do
for every song
is go on stage and have the greatest time for 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
And then you get paid millions for it as well.
Right. And you don't have to do like all the booking. You don't have to set up the equipment. You don't have to deal with, I mean, every job has its boring bits, right? Even being a billionaire comes with having to manage people, right?
Yeah.
So there's always going to be a boring thing. And I'm sure they have loads of like, oh, this again, right? I can't imagine how, their minds must check out every time Enter Sandman comes up on the set list, right? Like, how many times can you play that song before you're just like, I'm kind of done? You know what I mean? But I think that being in a space like that, if I was to have the dream, right, I think I would take an approach similar to Taylor Swift. I would be like, oh, surprise, here's another album. Surprise, here's another one. Oh, there's also a movie coming out. Oh, also there's secrets in the liner notes of this thing. Like, I think that, like, her energy of being able to constantly put things out is like really impressive. And she's able to, because she has the funds to do that. Right. Yep. And if I had the funds, that's what I'd be. I have so many movie ideas, so many short sketches. And so if I could, like, actually, even YouTube, the reason I don't put out YouTube videos is because it takes forever to edit and to film. Like, if I could just sit down, hit record, talk for a half an hour, and then just send it off to somebody else.
Yeah.
I would probably be in the range of getting one of those YouTube plaques. Yeah.
Well, what I was going to talk about the YouTube videos, because that's how I was first introduced to yourself. So we've obviously got a mutual favourite band.
I see that you're wearing the...
which is Metallica.
Yeah.
So, so of course when I go onto YouTube, there's always things coming up regarding Metallica because I watch a lot of videos, and here's this person, Bryce, coming up, who's going to review every Metallica song in detail, listen to it, and we're in an age where reaction videos are a big thing, so it was kind of falling into that. But it was interesting because you were getting it from a musician's point of view, not just someone discovering the band for the first time. Yeah. So you're sitting down and you're going album by album, and I know these songs inside out. So I've got my own personal favourites, and it was interesting listening to or watching your journey, because you know what's coming next and what's coming next. Were you doing videos before that, and how did you come up with the idea of, I'm going to do this?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yes, I actually was on YouTube in the very early days of YouTube. I have my own personal account, and then I think Midnight Notion probably popped up around 2008 or 9 or 10,
Yep.
somewhere in that late 2000s time period. And I had been making videos. I would do cover songs. I would do originals. I had some shows that I uploaded, just a miscellaneous music
Yeah.
related things, studio stuff. Whenever I was recording, I'd do like behind the scenes
Yeah.
videos and stuff. And I've always been a video guy. I picked up my parents' camera when I was, my mom's camera when I was like in fourth or fifth grade. And I would keep asking them to buy me tapes so I could make more, And so it was always a video kind of content place. But I think it was October of 2020 when I started this. So we were in lockdown mode.
Right. Okay.
I had lost my full-time job in July of that year, and I basically said, well, I've got I got a decent padding for myself financially.
Yeah.
I'm going to give a good hard try on being a freelance artist. I'm going to edit videos. I'm going to make
Yep.
improv classes virtually. I'm going to, act as much as I can. And I'm going to start making videos as well. And I had, we talked about when you're younger and you have so much time. I was jobless and everything was locked down. I had the time, right? And
Why was there any other? I know you done the Metallica videos. Would I be right in saying has that been your most successful thing on YouTube to date?
Yes and no. Yes and no. It's complicated. So I guess I think I know where it started. Actually, I think it was a Rolling Stone article that ranked all of it might not have been Rolling Stone. Some magazine somewhere decided to rank all of Metallica's songs.
All right. Okay.
And I read through it and I went, what is this ranking system? And
Yeah.
we've seen countless lists over time of the top 10, the top whatever, but there's never any indication of why did you choose this other than your own personal bias? Like what
Yeah.
metrics did you actually use? And I'm a Virgo. I love math. Well, not math, but I like spreadsheets and I like trying to perfect things and I just like doing it the right way. And I was like, I've actually done it before by album. I wanted to figure out my favorite album by math.
Right.
And I did a weird percentage thing. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to figure out my favorite song and I'm going to come up with the ranking to rank all of their 100-something songs at the time. And I'm going to do it on YouTube and I'm going to do it every single day just because. Yep. And in October that year, I had 107 subscribers. And I think by like February, like only a couple months in, I was probably halfway through their discography and I already was nearing 800. And
Yep.
I think it was the regularity of uploading daily.
Yeah.
And I think it was having content that people were searching for. Because there were a lot of people doing those Metallica reaction videos, the hip hop artists react and the classical composers react, and it was all of that sort of stuff. And I was like, well, I'm not going to react. I want to like rank. I want to dive in and get like a structure built. And it probably didn't take too long. I don't super like the ranking system that I stuck with. But it worked.
Remind me, what ended up being number one?
It was Halo on Fire won it.
Right,
Yeah.
okay.
Which I think is controversial because it beat one, and all of the diehards are like, how could you think anything is better than the song One? And
Yeah.
I will argue with them to the end. They were actually tied. They were tied at number one. And the reason why Halo on Fire won out is because lyrically it's more interesting. One doesn't have a lot of... James was still figuring out his words, I think, at that time. And when you look at One, there's a lot of like rhyming the same word with itself and like really simple imagery. Like there's no real question what it's about. It's very like on the nose. It's not very like, it doesn't have that sort of flowery poetic language.
Yeah.
And Halo on Fire does. And so just came down to lyrics. They're both amazing songs.
It's got to be one of their best songs in the last 20 years.
Oh yeah, yeah, and hearing it live with the orchestra in S&M 2,
Yeah.
I cried. That ending solo is just so beautiful, and I think it's amazing. And I honestly, I haven't finished 72 seasons. I know I have a few people that are like, you still got to do 4 more videos of 72 seasons, because I did the whole catalog, and then they put out another record, and I'm like, okay, I got to continue.
Yeah.
But at that point, I had my full-time job, and I was releasing less regularly, and I'm no longer able to do it daily. So so Metallica was really successful, got me to about 800 or so subscribers, and then I decided to pivot, and I went to Taylor Swift. And I did her very first album. And the reason I did it was I was curious if the fans would follow me or if they were just there for Metallica. And I think the answer is that they were just there for Metallica, which as a cover artist, it's the same kind of thing. They're not here for me. They found my videos because they searched for Metallica. And they stayed because they liked what I was doing, some of them. But they didn't follow me over to Taylor Swift. And then I started doing other genres. And I started doing a cycle of every week we're going to do a different genre. And I would go through hip hop, and I would go through different music from around the world. And I would go through EDM. And I actually probably got the most views on my BTS videos.
Right, okay.
But the problem is the BTS army does not like when you say that they use autotune. And they take it as a judgment, not a mixing technique. So when I was just casually saying, "Oh, it sounds like their voices are being, melodined or autotuned," they were like, "They would never do that. They're such good singers. They don't need." And they came after me, and the comments were awful. I actually ended up taking those videos and putting them private because I just got tired of being attacked for it.
Well, let me ask you then about recording then.
Yeah.
You could do recording as well.
Yep.
What's your thoughts then on, do you think bands are more lazy nowadays when it comes to songwriting? And what I mean by that, if you go back to the 60s, you've got bands such as The Who, The Beatles, The Doors, The Rolling Stones, Creedence Clearwater, all these amazing, legendary bands.
Yeah.
And they're recording on 4 tracks. They're recording on equipment that's so primitive, it's insane compared to today's standards. But because it was so primitive, it forced the bands into being as creative as they could possibly be.
Right.
And there's a reason why we still listen to these bands 60 years later, because the songs that they created are masterpieces.
Yeah.
Do you think because the recording studio is so easily accessible now, is that maybe a bad thing?
I think that I'm conflicted on this answer, because I think that there is a lot of creativity out there that isn't being discovered because the general population doesn't actually want originality. And I don't know if that's a hot take, but I know that there's a lot of people who are like, there's no creative, not you, a lot of other people out there that are like, oh, nothing's creative. I literally had a friend earlier today post on Facebook, oh, there's nothing creative, nothing original on TikTok anymore. And I'm like, well, hold on. Let me just dial this back. This is the problem. The problem is you say there's no originality, but the fact is that there's a lot of original content that nobody's going to see. In theater, if you write an original murder mystery play and you put it up at some local theater and you go, hey, I poured my heart and soul into this. I invested, I did everything I could to make a really awesome show. You'll get a handful of people to show up, and then it'll be crickets, right? But if you choose to put up Phantom of the Opera or Cats or Les Mis, everyone shows up. And they've already seen that show. Yeah. They already know what's happening. It's not a surprise to them. But the moment you put Shakespeare's name on it, people show up. And the same thing as we talked about before, if you put up an original band in a bar somewhere, or even on a venue that doesn't have a bar,
Yep.
people go, meh, I don't need to see that tonight. But when you go on stage and you say, we're a Black Sabbath tribute band, and then everybody wants to see it.
Yeah, it's a funny one because I think that there's two arguments. One of them would be, yes, some bands definitely rely on the recording studio to fix their mistakes, to make them sound better.
Yeah.
But whereas back in the 60s, it's getting recorded live in the studio, you had to be able to play your instrument. One take, and that was the tape. But then at the same time, there's so much great music still being created out there, you just need to know where to look.
Exactly. And I think, the other part of this is that my perspective is that the richest kids are the ones who get the success, oftentimes, right? And so when we're seeing these viral videos or viral artists, a lot of times they're going viral because they were able to hire somebody to mix it, or they were able to hire somebody to edit it, or they had a team. They were able to invest a certain amount of money to make them look good enough to go viral, or to at least feel comfortable, right, to the general public. Because the general public just likes comfort. It's the same with movies. A Marvel movie is going to break box office records. A random, art house film isn't. And that's not because it's not creative. It's because people just like comfort. And so if an artist can afford the level of production that makes them feel or sound comfortable, then they're going to go farther than the artist who can't afford it. And unfortunately, a lot of these, like when I think of the studio recordings that I would describe as lazy, super auto-tuned, heavily compressed, just verse, chorus, bridge, chorus, every song, there is a time and a place for that energy. But there is also a machine that is trying to profit off of it, right?
Yeah.
And you can sense the difference between someone who's trying to make that sound intentionally and somebody who is like, I want a quick path to success. And I think that's my enemy, is less that it's, yes, it is easier. And for myself as well, I come from, I'm only slightly younger than you, but I was recording on tape recorders. And I didn't even have a multi-track recorder. I just had like a talk boy from the movie Home Alone 2, right? And I pressed record and I played one guitar, and that's it. Guitar and vocals. And then I play it back, and that's how I had to figure out the second guitar part. But that was my only method. Or I could film it on a camera, but again, it was a tape, and you had to commit it to tape. And if you didn't like it, you had to record over it, and you lost the other take. And so I grew up and I practiced in a world where you had to choose, you had to do it right the first time, and there was no corrections. But I also was young enough to see all this new emerging technology and to play with it. And I'm an editor as well. I edit all my videos. I edit all my songs. I am fully comfortable saying there are solos that are hard for me to perform live that I've done. I've uploaded videos of me playing them and edited them. I'm comfortable with that. It's fine. I was able to perform it once, and that's all I need, right? But I can hire a lead player to play it if I want. But at the end of the day, I still wrote the piece. And the writing of it and the way that it sounds at the end of the day is more important than me than whether or not I can perform it perfect every time. And I am in my sort of late 2024, early 2025, I'm trying to dial myself back and be less perfectionistic with music and video. I'm trying to embrace what I used to be, right? Because I've worked in video. Sorry?
That's hard to do.
It really is, because I've been taking in a lot of content. Do you follow Rick Beato at all?
No.
On YouTube? He's a producer in Atlanta that he's done a lot of interviews with some really high profile musicians, and one after another has talked at great length about mixing songs on NS10 speakers, these crappy little speakers that every studio has, but they don't sound good. But if you can make it sound good on an NS10, then it sounds good anywhere. And they mixed on those. And he talked to producers who were like instrumental in the grunge era, right? This guy that like made the bands that were popular in the early 90s is he's like, well, what sort of compression settings do you use? And he's like, I don't know. He's just pulling buttons and knobs until it sounds good. And here I'm starting to kind of realize everything that I've been doing to my music has been based on a rule. Like, you always pan the guitar this way. You always put this setting on a vocal for compression. You always this. And it is actually, I'm taking the dynamics out of my music by leveling everything out, by compressing it so hard. I no longer have that ebb and flow that I'm writing. I do write. I play softer when it's a soft part, and I play heavier when it's a heavy part. Why not just let that be soft and heavy?
Yeah.
And so I'm trying to be more embracing of that, and I'm trying to figure out guitar tones as not a setting that I just plop, but something I actually experiment with again.
Yeah.
And to make the depth of my recordings be in the layers and not so much in the plugins, right?
Yeah. So, Bryce, we're obviously early 2025. So, what is your plans for the next 12 months?
It's great. I'm coming back into music. It's been kind of a break for me. I did all those videos. I got some moderate success on YouTube. I really liked that. But in the last couple of years, I've been working full-time and a part-time gig and doing improv and doing commercial gigs. And I haven't had a lot of time for me. And I'm trying to be more embracing of this time that I have on my own to try to make more often. I haven't actually, my whole life I was a maker. And then at some point I became an editor. And I want to get back to making. And so I've been playing with just letting my mind create. I'm hoping to produce my first ever stage play at the Minnesota Fringe Festival.
All right, cool.
I'm crossing my fingers that it's a lottery system, but I'm going to write a play and try to produce it. And if I get drawn, that'll be there. I am trying to put together trying to join with a friend for this Rush tribute idea. I would love to be on stage playing drums for the first time since 2016. I haven't even seen my drum kit since 2016. It's been in storage, so I've been using my electric drums this whole time. But to actually bring my drum kit back out, play on stage, and show people that, yes, I can, in fact, count to 7. Thank you, Neil Peart, for that. And then I also have been working on a medley from Super Mario 3 by request. Right. Yes, I had a young person, a friend's daughter, loved my medley of Super Mario 64 music that I did back in 2012. And she listened to it all the time. She's like, you should do one for Super Mario 3. And I'm like, you know what? Yeah, all right. I can do that, and I'm going to. I've been working on it for like years, but I have actually started getting towards the next step. And my big goal for that one is not just to do the medley. Last time I did, I recorded it, and then I just put it up with a thumbnail, and there's no video. This year, I want to make like a really intense 8-bit music video that involves like me in the background, some custom animations. I have a lot of big goals related to Super Mario 3 and that medley.
It sounds like you're not going to have a lot of time for sleep.
What even is sleep? And then I think lastly is I have been really, really thinking about the next record a lot. And it's really sitting, and there's some content in the record that is kind of, we'll call it politically charged. And I think it's the right time in America to revive some of these songs from, you could guess. And I think that it's time to maybe send that demo out and see if I can get some more feedback and maybe push record.
It's funny you say that because I almost finished recording a new album, and I've revised. I can't remember of the songs I sent you. I think there's maybe 4 of them. Something like that. But they've sat for ages, and then it was like, you know what? 2024, I'm going to properly re-record them. And the other thing I done, which was I would write songs because I'm a guitarist. I'm always thinking guitar first.
Yeah.
So I would record the whole thing, and then I'd be like, better put some vocals on it. It's in the wrong key. So now what I've done, I've went back to them and went, right, if I want to re-record this song, is it in the actual right key? And try to figure it out and improve it. So I've got the vocals completely still to do, but all the music's done. My friend Gav plays bass guitar. He's recorded it. His parts were already done as well. So you'll probably have another album coming your way at some point in 2020.
Okay. All right. But, maybe we can share each other's. You could take a listen to my next one and give me some feedback. But
we've obviously been extremely technical for any musicians that are watching. So I like to end things on a few fun questions for yourself.
Great.
So imagine you've got a time machine. You could go anywhere in the world, big, small gig. What's the one gig that you wish you could have attended?
Oh, that I could have attended. Oh, that's a great question. I've seen some good gigs. I don't know that there's really anything standing out right now. I mean, I would have loved to see Metallica in the 90s. Actually, you know what? Cunning Stunts. I'm going to say Cunning Stunts. Yeah.
That was my first gig.
Was it?
Yeah.
How blown away were you? Like, did you think it was an actual accident at the end of the show, or were you like...
Well, you did, because there was no internet, you didn't know that it was going to happen.
Yeah.
So it looked like a legitimate accident happening when you were in the audience. But the great thing about that was me and my friend went, and it was an arena, so 20,000 people.
Yeah.
We had seating tickets, and I was like, this is cool, but I'd rather be down standing there.
Yeah.
I think we would have been maybe 15 at the time.
Yeah.
We jumped the barrier, ran into the crowd. We ended up on the front barrier.
Wow.
So James Hetfield's coming down, you've got your arm round him, and you're like total rocket stuff. And Kirk Hammett playing like the one solo right in front of you, and like the big structures all falling down. It was probably one of the best gigs I've ever been to.
Yeah, I can imagine.
It was almost like a theatrical performance. It was It was amazing.
I mean, I think I'm on that side of like, it's really theatrical. I love seeing theatrical stuff, and that's actually one of the reasons why I probably identified so much with the pop acts of the 90s. You know, I would have loved to see one of the big NSYNC shows when they had pyros and, you know, flying in from the rafters and stuff like that.
I don't know how big they are out where you are, but I really like Iron Maiden, and it's like a whole. It's a performance. It's not a gig. It's a performance.
Yes.
Because it's the whole stage show and the look, the lights. They've got the big Eddie creature that comes on stage, and it's ridiculous, but in such a good way.
Yeah, absolutely. I honestly I don't think I have a good oh man, I really wish I would have seen that gig. Other than like maybe I actually get to see AC/DC this year. A friend has taken me. And it's like exciting to be in the presence of them, but I also know that it's not going to sound great. You know, it's probably they're getting up there. I would have maybe liked to see them when they were in their prime. You know,
I saw 2008, and I thought they were about 15 years past their prime before attending it.
Yeah,
they absolutely rocked. But 2008 was a long time ago as well.
Yeah, it's almost 20 years ago, right? So it's that thing where it's like, I'm going to get to see them. I'm going to check it off the list. I did get to see Fleetwood Mac, and I would have liked to go back and have better seats because the sound was awful in the nosebleeds.
All right, okay.
I could barely hear. I literally had to choose between singing along and hearing them.
Right. Okay, that's not good.
I would get offbeat singing along because I couldn't hear the beat. It was
Right.
really quiet up there. I don't know why they screwed that sound up so bad, but so like, there's bands that we'd all have missed. But if I could actually go back, I would want to relive my first experiences again. I love thinking back to that first Metallica show and the first Blink show and the first, anything that when you're a major fan and you finally get to see that artist you've been dreaming of, right?
Yeah.
And especially if you've been hearing their catalog and not able to see them, right?
Yeah.
Because I knew of Metallica far before I was even considering myself a fan. We all knew Enter Sandman, and I had a stepdad who had the album, and I'd listened to it a little bit, and I really was into Fuel when it came out, and we watched the music video, but like when you've been taking it in for so long, and then they finally show up to your hometown. Like I remember being at the XL Energy Center in St. Paul, and the lights go down and they start playing Ecstasy of Gold, center stage, and we were way up high. We're just 18-year-old kids. And you look down and you see the flashlights coming in from the side. And I was just overcome with the emotion of like, oh my God, they're here. I'm so excited. Like I literally was like, yes. And that reliving those moments is worth so much more than, it'd be cool to see some of the bands that I missed out on, but like just that passion is such a powerful thing and a powerful memory. That's what I'd go back to.
Another question for you then, and this might be a good one for the sound engineer in you.
Okay.
So millions of great songs have been written and recorded across the years. What's the one song you wish you could have been in the studio to witness the band recording?
Oh, wow. All of them. Is that a bad answer? Okay. Side tangent. Genuinely, I'm saying all of them because I love watching the creative process. When Metallica was doing their Mission Metallica during Death Magnetic, they were uploading little clips of the studio process. I was all in. I checked in every day. I watched every clip. I am all in. Like one of the biggest things I hate about streaming is that we no longer have the behind the scenes video that comes with the DVD. And the director's commentary and like all that stuff. I have a dream project of going to every local band or any musician I can find and just interviewing them. How do you store your songs? I want to find out, do they use Google Docs? Do they use notebooks? Do they I want to find out the nitty gritty, like how does your band operate? What's the model? Would you have spreadsheets? Do you just make it up? Is it all in your brain? Like where is it stored? How do you function? And so like when I think about like great bands in the studio, like there's so many great bands, but like any single clip of any major musician going, I think we should do a little more hi-hat. I'm like, yeah, you get that hi-hat, right? I'm here to champion it. So it's a disappointing answer of all of the above, but genuinely, this is a favorite thing for me. I love behind the scenes stuff.
Give me the first one that pops into your mind. What have you got a favorite album cover?
Oh,
because it's not something that you see nowadays.
Yeah, album cover. What a great question.
I mean, to me, it's still as important, but to others, it might not be.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's amazing. Album cover. I'm trying to think of any album cover ever now. I have a favorite, package. Album package. What's that?
Yeah, what's that?
I love that in the year 2005, System of a Down put out 2 different records, and they fit together.
Yeah.
And when I don't know if it was Mesmerized or Hypnotized, one of them had like a weird little half sleeve, and I was like, what is that? Why is this here?
Yeah.
And then when I found out they slide together and they become a big book,
Mm-hmm.
yes, give me that all day long. But I don't know, album cover. I'm looking at. I have a shelf full of CDs just off the camera here, and I'm like,
It's
ah,
records are a big thing. Vinyl is a
yeah,
big thing here again, and it's cool seeing some of those old albums, like the big artwork. And I always loved like the Doors, the L.A. Woman album. Was nothing spectacular. It was just a picture of the band, the four members
yeah.
standing, but they had it packaged so that the record and the inside notes slid into the sleeve, and there was a hole so it looked like a letter, like so you could see the band at the back.
Oh,
And you see it in the shops now. It's all printed on just card. It's not the same.
yeah. No, it's not the same at all. That's one of the biggest things that I miss about physical albums as well. I loved the packing material and all the different, the thank yous and the behind the scenes stuff again.
Yep.
But yeah, well, I'm still trying to think of album covers. I realize I keep referencing System of a Down, but Steal This Album is a great cover because it wasn't a cover, right? Do you know this album?
Which one?
It's called Steal This Album.
No.
And the cover, it's literally, I don't think it's even a cover. I don't know if they even put anything in there. It's a jewel case with the CD, and the CD looks like those just basic CDRs that you can buy anywhere. And in Sharpie, it says "Steal This Album." And that's it. I don't think I had the physical copy. I think somebody shared it with me or something. But everywhere you look, if you type in "Steal This Album," you don't get an album art. It's just a blank jewel case with a CD in it. And that's brilliant.
Yeah.
So I like stuff like that, but I don't know, man. Oh, I'm going to have an answer for you eventually. I'm going to have to do a whole YouTube series
That's fine.
to mathematically find my favorite album cover.
And I've got one last question for yourself, and it can, like most people, it can change every day. But for today, who's your Mount Rushmore for bands? Who's the four bands for yourself
For me.
that you just love?
Okay. Yep. Okay. Well, we got to put Metallica up there. Number one. Matchbox 20 is up there. I love Rob Thomas, and that band has done it. That's one of the few bands I have everything that they've made. I'm gonna do Fleetwood Mac. I think Fleetwood Mac. I think they get up there for me personally. And every one of your listeners is gonna be so mad when I say Backstreet Boys, but I don't care. I don't care.
Hey, it's not my listeners; it'll be your fans.
You know what? Come at me, bro.
But Bryce, thank you so much for coming on, and it's been a pleasure to actually meet you.
Yes, and you.
Talk to you face to face, and I wish you all the luck for 2025. You'll have a new album in your emails at some point when I get round to finally finishing it, and hopefully you'll be like, he took my words on board and he made it better.
Fingers crossed for the same for you.
Yeah, cool, man. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day, and speak at some point down the line.
Awesome. Take care.
Cheers.